Hello Lightbringers, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be using a little bit more of a free flow sort of style. It's going to be a little bit more conversational. I'm not going to be reading a text, so it's going to be a little bit more sort of face-to-face, as it were. Honestly, I really like these videos because it's a chance to sort of bounce things off of one another a little bit more, I find. But as I'm sure you know, the theme of today is going to be centered around different ways to succeed in a school setting this fall, and particularly Seminary is I've been to a liberal arts university, but I'm also at a seminary, and so I'm just gonna riff a little bit off of, actually I think we're gonna stick mostly with the seminary today. I can do another video about tips for surviving liberal arts university, and because it does feel like in a lot of ways a very, very different ball game. So we're gonna dive into these tips, and they're gonna be a lot more free-flowing. So also they're a lot more relationally based as opposed to scheduling and that sort of thing. So the first one that I had was, it seems really obvious, but honestly, if you're anything like me, you might forget it a lot. And that is, be willing to ask the staff questions. So I'm not necessarily talking about the faculty in this particular instance, but the staff. So the registrar, anyone who is involved in recruitment, technology is a really big one too. Any one of those, they're more than willing to answer your questions. Say, for something that might seem kind of silly to you, but if you're not able to figure something out with your computer, it's just, you feel like you need to go to a tech expert. I mean, you do. And at the college, often there are people who will be able to, or one person who will be able to help you with that particular issue. And they might not be able to fix it, but they're there, and they don't mind you asking. Of course, there are boundaries and stipulations with that we'll get into a little bit later, but I know, for me anyway, I don't like bugging people with my problems, and have historically had a difficult time doing that. But just a reminder that they can, and they will help you. They will. And sort of a tag on to that, to make sure that you are courteous. Make sure that you are treating them with kindness, not demanding things of them. I mean, that doesn't go well in really any situation, does it? But yeah, not at the seminary that I'm at, but when I was working at the liberal arts university, I met some pretty rude students and people who took advantage of registrar and scholarships, and not in a good way. That they were just kind of flippant towards people who were working there, which didn't make any sense to me at all. So, and I'm sure you know that, but it's just a reminder to be courteous, to remember to treat them with respect. And what can happen too, this isn't why I treat people with respect in the way that I do. I treat people with respect because they are valuable, they're worth it and more than what I can give. But they will sometimes end up sending you things that they haven't sent out to other students yet, and they wanted you to have priority. I've had that happen before, and it's a really, really nice little surprise when it does happen. It's not a reason to ever treat someone courteously, but it's just a really nice perk of treating people with kindness. Go figure, right? It seems simple, but when we can get, stressed out with school, with our workloads, with everything going on around us, we can sometimes forget the fact that we're being hurried with other people, or we're being short with them, and it just never pays off in the end. So that would be one of my first tips, and yes, it is a relational tip, because I believe that a lot of the good that comes out of experiences at seminary have to do with the fact that you are kind to people, that you respect them, and also that you get yourself out there a little bit and make friends with people that you wouldn't normally be friends with. But we'll get into that one after the second one that I have for you. So the second one is very, very interconnected to the first one, and it's ask faculty questions. So the professors that you're working with. And again, this might seem really, really basic to many people, and for some people it's not so much an issue, but I don't really like looking ignorant, and it can be tough for me to ask a question even if I've done a decent amount of research into it, so like maybe 20 minutes trying to figure it out. I still don't like asking. So if you're anything like me and you're having a hard time with a particular question, or you just need feedback from a prof, really just ask them. It's so much easier, and honestly, this is something that I'm still reminding myself, because like I said, it can be a little bit difficult for me to not just figure everything out on my own. Again, it seems a little bit silly because, we're at a learning institution, but again, if you're anything like me and you don't like quote-unquote bothering people, it's good. Actually, I've kind of a funny story. This was when I was going to the University of Lethbridge back when I lived in Alberta, and I had this one professor. He was the professor of creative writing, and I thought, this is gonna be such a great class. I'm going to excel. This is my bread and butter. This is my jam. This is all the good weird old foods. And I got into the class, started writing, and started getting grades that I was not pleased with. And I, for a while, kind of just soldiered on and tried different things. But no matter how hard I tried, I kept getting the same grades over and over again. It was like a glass ceiling that I couldn't shatter no matter how hard I tried. So I finally caved after reading over the syllabus about 20 different times to figure out what I was doing wrong. And that sounds ridiculous. It's just how I function. And I went for a meeting with this particular professor, and I asked him how I could improve my writing. I kid you not. He leaned back, he took a deep breath in, and he kind of just sat there, and I was sitting there just like, okay. He sat there for a good maybe 5 seconds, just holding his breath in. He exhales and he opens his eyes. Katie, you just have to feel the words. You just have to embrace their nuance. You just have to touch the words. I've never been more confused in my life. And this is coming from someone who thinks in symbols, and I have some pretty abstract, weird thoughts. But it didn't make any sense. So I was like, okay, do you have an example for me? He couldn't really give me an example. He just kept repeating over and over again, just feel the words, just breathe them in, just be, like whatever, really esoteric kind of advice. And anyway, so I hand in my next assignment from him, and I didn't do anything differently. Guess what I got? I got an A. I got an A+, actually. So I'm not saying this for seminary because I don't think this happens at places like seminary where people really want to see you grow. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some incredible universities out there, liberal arts universities, that really, really do care about your growth. But the one that I was at in particular didn't. They kind of just wanted to weed students out. So anyway, it's just a lesson that sometimes when you meet up with people, that's when the magic happens. There was actually another example of that with my Middle English professor. I was learning Middle English, which I don't really remember at all. And I went into his office for a meeting just to talk about the upcoming essay because I didn't know what I was doing. And nobody in the class did. And I asked him what I could do, and he's like, well, I have this suggestion, and you could tie it into this, and you could tie it into that, and then you could do this, and then you could do that. Quite honestly, the man wrote my paper for me. All I had to do was take notes. So, again, not a surefire thing, but having connections with people can help. And also showing professors that if you do care about the content, that you really do care about it. Because sometimes, it's obvious again, but when you keep your passion sort of bottled up and you're afraid to share it, or you're afraid something will be wrong or something like that, because they obviously know a lot more than you, it can really detract from things, right? It's a process of learning, and they're there to help you grow. And if you show them what you're passionate about, if they're a good teacher, they will help you with it. I know I sure would. If I was teaching at a university and my students really showed me that they cared about particular topics, I would move heaven and hell to make sure that they were cared for in those ways. So yeah, always never be afraid to ask them. You aren't bugging them, and even if you are, they're there to help, while at the same time being able to maintain that sort of respecting their time, because a lot of faculty members, they're working on projects as well, they're working on research. But yeah, just like anything, it's a balance, but I think you'll be able to know. And again, these are very obvious, but surprisingly overlooked by a lot of people. And then the third one that I have, you may hate me for this, especially if you're an introvert. And if you are an introvert, then I get it. I do. You've got your own thing going on. But you know what? Even if you are introverted, I would pretty strongly suggest that you go to social clubs that are fitting for what you're interested in. Just getting involved, maybe being a fly on the wall for a little bit. And I know that with a busy schedule, that can be really intimidating sometimes. And one of the last things you think you might need is to be around people. But in my opinion, it is part of the learning process to be able to stretch yourself a little bit in that way, and to be able to do a more proficient job of scheduling in your schoolwork. I have a lot of thoughts going through my head here, but basically, it kind of, what I find for myself, my hair is eating my eyeball. What I find for myself is I kind of just don't realize I need it until I'm there. And even when I'm there, sometimes I won't be having the best time per se, but I go again and I start realizing, oh, okay, there's camaraderie here. This is a good thing. These are where you will most likely meet some of the most unexpected friends and make lifelong friendships with people who will most likely have connections for you in the future in one way or another. Not that that is the major reason to be spending time with them. It's not. People are valuable, but it's kind of like an offshoot of your, I guess, your willingness to go out of your way and do something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. And it really does pay off, because in the end, connections are key, and it's an amazing chance to actually help people to get out from beneath what you're used to doing and being just so entrenched in school that you forget about reality. I know a couple people who were my friends back in the day, but honestly we kind of just lost touch because they had a really hard time scheduling and managing their time. And there's one person who would just sit in the library like all day, and because they were so afraid of failing and not getting into their program. It's just not a way to live. You know, I'd say that it's a really good idea to practice what life is going to look like outside of school while you're in school. That can be challenging, but man, does it ever pay off. It's kind of like when you're in a relationship with somebody, and I've done this, and you completely neglect everyone around you, and then when you emerge from that cave after breaking up with that person or whatever, then you don't have as many people around you and you need to rebuild, and you miss out on a lot of fun times with those people. So, and I think I had, yeah, okay. So the last one, this one is about disagreements, and I imagine you probably know where I'm going with this, but I wrote, get comfy with disagreements in your social groups, in your classes, in your own mind, for crying out loud. You're going through a time where you're learning a lot, and I don't think we really give ourselves as students credit for the sheer mass amount of information that we're ingesting. I have a professor tell me that it's like drinking wine from a fire hydrant, and I could not agree more. That is what it's like, and it's wonderful but overwhelming, and you're gonna have times when that information clashes with another person's information. There's gonna be times when you're heightened emotionally because there's so much going on and you have so many deadlines, and you don't get along with this particular professor or whatnot, right? So yeah, it's okay. And again, if the teachers are worth their salt, they are going to help lead you through that and help lead you through conversations to come to the root of what you believe, so you can either better articulate it or you can drop it because it's actually not a helpful belief, etc., etc. So yeah, a lot of these have been relational and perhaps a little obvious, but I found that they really, really are important. And if you are going back to school this fall, if you're back in school right now, I really, really wish you the best of luck in your classes. You're gonna kill it. And honestly, if you need book recommendations or help or anything like that, just let me know. I have it's a freelance business where I edit essays and stuff like that. I've been doing that for about 8-9 years. So if you need somebody to take a look at your stuff, just send it my way. We can have a conversation about that. Actually, it's not a bad idea to do a fall giveaway for that, if you guys trust me enough. But anyway, so wishing you the best of luck this semester, and if you are in seminary or you're just in school in general, liberal arts or wherever, just feel free to let me know. And if you have any suggestions for, what kind of tips you'd like, if you didn't feel like these were comprehensive enough or you'd like more, please just let me know and I can make more for you. But until next time, my friends, I'm wishing you